How should you explain being let go from your previous company in the interview? Let's learn about it. Hi, my name is Matt, and I'm a career coach at Elevation Career, helping you to achieve all your career advancement goals through practical, top-notch training. Being let go can be a tricky subject to discuss in the interview. So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to explain it in such a way that you can present yourself in the best light possible, regardless of your situation and what happened. To start, there are largely two ways someone can be let go from a company. The first way is being laid off, which means the employee has lost his or her job due to the changes of the employer, due to the changes that the employer has decided to make on its end, usually, though not always, through no fault of the employee. And the second way is being fired. Being fired means that the company considers the employee's action or performance to be the cause of the termination. In most such cases, there will be a termination letter indicating the same too. We will cover both scenarios in this video, and I will also provide sample answers that you can reference or use at the end of the video, so make sure that you watch until the end. With that, let's get started. Number one, being laid off. As I said earlier, being laid off means that the employee has lost his or her job due to the decisions and the circumstances of the employer. Examples of a reason for a layoff could be restructuring, reorg, large projects or programs or budget being canceled, companies being merged or acquired, and location strategy change. For example, if a company decides to relocate their Asia headquarters from one city to another, and as a result terminates employees in the previous location, that would be a case of a layoff without any fault of the employees. So how do you explain being laid off? First of all, being laid off is quite easy to explain. And you shouldn't worry about it because things like restructuring, reorganization, changes in plans, and etc. are relatively common these days. And unfortunately, they are frequent events. So treat it like a neutral incident. You don't have to feel bad about it. It's not your fault. And just explain it in a matter-of-fact way. The main thing you need to do in the case of a layoff is to explain the reasons clearly. Was it because of restructuring? Tell them that. Was it because of changes in plan, reorg, new management, etc.? Make sure that you explain it clearly so that there is no misunderstanding and the new potential employer is well aware of the circumstances that led to the layoffs that were outside of your control. This is so that the new employer will not think that the layoff had anything to do with you and that it was purely due to circumstances. Sometimes a layoff can be due to the employee's performance, so you want to make sure to communicate that that was not the case. Another thing that you probably want to do is providing some context. What I basically mean is letting the employer know how many other people were affected as well besides yourself. If there was a major restructuring and 90% of your team was let go, mention it. Because if 90% of the team was let go and you were part of it, versus only 10%, has completely opposite implications. If your previous employer was acquired and 50% of the department was laid off, you want to talk about that. You want to explain that to the employer, to the interviewer, so that they know you were not the only one who was affected. This kind of context supports the idea that, again, the layoff had nothing to do with you and that it was purely due to the previous company's decisions or circumstances that you had little to no control over. And that is how you explain being laid off. Number two, being fired. As I said, if somebody is fired, that means the employer considers his or her actions and or performance to be the reason, to be the cause for termination. And frankly speaking, this one is much harder to explain. And being fired can be a traumatic experience. You may feel like you may never be able to find another job again. But if you're in this situation, I got your back too. Do not worry too much. There are still ways to explain it in the best light. The important thing to remember is that we all make mistakes. We all make mistakes one way or another. And there's nothing we can do about what has already happened in the past. The only thing, and perhaps the best thing that you can do, is to recognize the mistake, learn from the mistake, and make the necessary changes so that it won't happen again. And that is what you want to emphasize in your response as well. First, you don't have to sound overly remorseful or guilty. That may only highlight the magnitude of the problem or exaggerate the magnitude of the problem in the employer's mind. Instead, you want to follow these 3 steps as you explain what happened. Number 1, talk about your intentions that were not malignant. Basically, why you made the mistake that you did. And number 2, take responsibility for your actions. And then number 3, set your focus on the lessons you learned and how you were able to grow as a result of this incident so that you won't make the same mistake again. Also, one thing that you do not want to do is to shift blame, blaming the employer or your colleagues or the circumstances. Of course, there is no need to own up to everything, and you should explain clearly what happened, factually. But you want to do so in the right tone, in a neutral and professional way, instead of with a complaining or blaming attitude. That is because doing so may give the employer the impression that you are someone who does not own up to their own mistakes and that you haven't really learned or grown from this experience, and thus you are capable of making the same mistake again in the future. Regardless of whether it was really your fault or not, and whether it is fair or not, there are always things that we can take responsibility for and work on. Again, there's nothing that we can do about what happened in the past or what others have done to us or against us. The only part that we can really, truly control is how we choose to respond. And that is how truly mature and resilient people respond to challenges. In the same way, what you want to do is focusing on what you're able to learn and how you're able to grow as a result, and the kind of person you have become, and what you have done to ensure that you do not repeat the same error in the future. There are many reasons why someone may be involuntarily terminated. In any case, what the employer wants to see is how you dealt with this difficult situation and how you grew from the experience. Being honest and taking responsibility for the situation can turn a potentially major issue into a redemptive story that demonstrates both professionalism and maturity. Acknowledge your past mistakes, explain how they made you a better person, and transition into describing where you are now. Most of all, do not allow your past to define who you are. Remaining positive and focusing on your growth is the key to help the employer see your true value. Before I finish, as promised, here are a few sample answers that you can easily reference. Here we go. First, let me start with a few sample answers for explaining being laid off. I left my previous company due to restructuring. Because of the firm's decision to reduce their investment in the region, around 60% of my team was let go, during which time I was also affected despite my excellent performance review just a few months prior. My previous employer has decided to relocate their regional headquarters from Hong Kong to Shanghai last year. I had a great relationship with the management and they offered me an attractive package to move, but in the end, I decided to stay due to personal reasons. My previous position at ABC was made redundant following the firm's decision to outsource my entire team offshore, which is why I am looking for a new opportunity. The next two sample answers are for the case of being fired. The first one is for a junior sales analyst, and the next one is for an IT engineer. Obviously, whether you are in sales or in tech is not the point here, as everyone's specific situation will be different. These examples are here so that you can get a sense of how to structure your response and explain what happened in the best light possible according to what we discussed in the video. My last role at XYZ was my first job in sales. Even though it was my first exposure to sales, I was given challenging goals, and despite my best effort, I could not meet my target at the end of the year, leading to my termination. I have always been hardworking, but it's also true that I lacked the necessary skills and knowledge to be successful. I realized that if I wanted to continue my career in sales, I needed to take ownership of my shortcomings and make tangible changes and improvement. I started reading and studying well-known sales books by industry leaders such as Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, and Tony Robbins. Through them, I recognized key areas that I needed to improve and started working on them, including overcoming my fear of rejection, staying optimistic, taking ownership of my circumstances, and better time management. Even though it was a challenging experience, I know that I have become a much stronger and more mature salesperson as a result. With my work ethic combined with crucial fundamental sales knowledge, I am eager to prove myself again and make a tangible contribution in my next role. The next one is a sample answer for an IT engineer. When I was working at ABC, there was a time when a major incident happened in the middle of the night that severely affected the business. We were under a lot of pressure to fix the issue quickly, but we were not able to roll out the changes because the person in charge was not reachable. In my attempt to help the business, I decided to access the production code and fix the problem directly, which ended up resolving all the problems right away. However, the next day I was informed that there will be disciplinary actions against me because I accessed the production server without permission, which eventually led to my termination. Even though I was just trying to resolve the urgent problem, now I fully understand that it was a mistake on my part. I should have considered the potential negative outcome and that there are very good reasons for the structured processes in place. I recognize what I should have done is to escalate the issue to more senior managers in the firm who has higher clearance and do a better job in managing the client's expectation. Although it was a difficult experience, I believe I am now a more mature engineer as a result, who is much better equipped to handle similar high-pressure situations the right way. If given the opportunity, I look forward to adding even more value than before by applying the important lessons that I learned. To recap, when you're explaining being laid off, number one, explain it in a neutral tone. Number two, explain the reason clearly so there's no misunderstanding. And lastly, provide some context, especially if a significant percentage of the workforce was affected. Basically, what's happening to Twitter right now. And when you are explaining being fired, if you're explaining being fired, what you want to do is, number one, talk about your positive intention. Number two, take responsibility for your actions. And lastly, focus on the lessons you learned and as a result, how you matured as a professional. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I understand this is not the easiest topic to talk about, but sometimes it is a necessary one. And I hope that you're able to learn, get some idea as to how to present your case and how to explain your situation in the best light possible. Hope you liked this video. If you did, please click the like button below and please consider subscribing. It would mean a lot to me and encourage me to keep posting useful content. Hope to see you in the next video soon. And until then, elevate your life by elevating your career. See you soon.